Hello everyone, welcome to Kodable Show and Tell. My name is Hannah Boston. I'm the instructional coach here at Kodable. The Show and Tell webinar series is a time for me to sit down with a teacher or a curriculum designer, somebody using Kodable in their classroom, and maybe they're using it in an interesting or different way, or they're grappling with a common problem that other teachers might be facing as well. And the goal of these talks is really for those of you who are watching to learn something new. Maybe it raises a question for you, something you want to get answered, but really just to get inspired by the awesome teachers who are using Kodable in their classrooms. So today I am joined by Jacqueline LaBerge Leiker. Jacqueline, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Jacqueline is a rock star teacher using Kodable, but I also just want to say that what she's doing in her classroom, you're going to hear all about it, but it is something that those of you watching can definitely do in your classroom as well. We have designed Kodable to be really accessible, and Jacqueline's going to tell you how she's using it and give you some tips and tricks. So whatever she's talking about, definitely feel free to give it a try, and I'll have both of our contact information in the description box of this video, so you can reach out to us if you have any questions. But I'm going to jump into Jacqueline asking you some questions, and then this will just flow like a regular conversation. So I'd love for you to first tell us a little bit about the school that you're teaching at, kind of what your role is at that school. Tell us a little bit about the students and what you do.
Okay, so I teach at Norrie-Vulcan Area Schools, which is a smaller school in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I actually teach in every building. I was hired to teach in the high school. I've traditionally been a high school teacher. But when I first came here, they went 1-to-1 the year that I came here. Every student in the entire district, all the way down to early kindergarten, has iPads. And so I started as a high school teacher and helping with the technology distribution in the 1-to-1. And then as I was here a year or two, we started to want more and more technology classes. So right now I'm actually teaching tech to every elementary student as a special. And then I also teach 2 tech classes in the middle school. And then I teach 3 different hours in the high school, but they involve a lot of different tech classes. Like sometimes I'm teaching a couple of different tech classes at the same time. So we have a lot of technology available here at this school.
Yeah.
And we're a smaller school. We have about almost 50% free and reduced lunch. We did apply for the Kodable for Everyone award this year, and we won it, and we're super excited about that.
Could you tell people really quick just a quick snippet of what that was about?
Yeah, so Kodable does offer, Kodable for Everyone is a little mini award grant kind of application that you can make with Kodable if you meet certain standards like our school did, and you show all the amazing things you're doing with Kodable. You can win a year's grant of the entire Kodable program, which is a very wonderful, amazing program that we're very fortunate to have right now. And that's what happened with us. And now we have Kodable in our entire district, and I use it from EK all the way up to 5th grade, and then sometimes my 6th graders too. Actually, they really love it. So even our 6th grade does a little bit in Kodable too.
Cool.
But I use the entire curriculum in my elementary school. So,
what is that like to be teaching so many different grades? Because I know a lot of teachers that are watching this or have reached out to me are teaching K through 5. What is that like for you? What's challenging about it?
It's challenging because it's very busy.
Yeah.
I am all over the place. I'm in every building, so I'm running a lot. And obviously, like from a record standpoint, when I log into my Power School, which is where we keep all of our records, I have a lot of classes. But I love it because I feel like it's very, well, for one thing, I get to know everybody in the elementary school. Yeah. They're very excited about technology. I'm super excited that they're learning coding already because I also teach AP Computer Science in the high school. And obviously, coding is really important to me. I'm a computer science minor. So this way, I know that all of our students that are coming up are getting some really amazing coding experience before they even get up to the middle school or the high school. And then, so from that standpoint, I love it because I get to meet everybody, I get to know everybody, and I get to control the curriculum that's happening or have a say in all the curriculum that's happening. all the way up until they come up into high school with me. So super important that they get that coding. I love it.
Totally. Well, and so you just mentioned that you studied computer science, and I talk to a lot of teachers who do not have any background in computer science. So I'm curious if you could say a little bit to that. What is it like teaching young children coding when you yourself have a computer science background?
Yeah, so computer science it's a pretty rare degree to have in education because so many people who have a computer science degree don't choose to go into the education field. But that's why my work with Code, I'm also a facilitator for Code.org, which is an amazing program as well. And that's the curriculum we use in our middle school and our high school to teach computer science. And we try to teach teachers, no matter what degree they have, it doesn't matter, that they can still teach coding even if they don't have a computer science degree themselves. From a standpoint of having a computer science degree, I think it's awesome and amazing that I can go in and see all those elementary students learning some of the really crazy like functions and loops and if-then decision structures, even when they're as young as kindergarten. Some of the students are learning some of those concepts in such an amazing way. I think I've said this before. Kodable has an incredible way of making it all game-oriented, fun, but really teaching perseverance and still getting in these concepts that you wouldn't think a kindergartner would be able to understand. But yet, with the moving of the maze and the way it's been taught, it really does an amazing job of teaching them those. So from a computer science standpoint, I look at it and I think, oh my God, these kids are like doing functions and they don't realize they're doing functions right now. But that doesn't mean either that from another standpoint, whether I had a computer science degree or not, this coding program, teaching coding is amazing no matter what. I mean, when I took a computer science degree, obviously computer science was in a much different language. Everything was different. So it isn't like I feel like it's given me some sort of amazing advantage to teach it. I feel like anybody could teach it. I do feel very excited for the future, though, of these students because they're seeing some advanced concepts. And I believe sometimes by the time students get to high school, understanding a function or understanding an if-then or a loop, sometimes the perseverance isn't there or the logic just isn't there, and they feel like it's too late to learn it. Not that it's ever too late, but I do love that these students will grow up with functions and if-thens and loops. And then they'll just be like, oh, I already know what that is. That's nothing new to me. That's not difficult to me.
Yeah, well, so much of it is just that exposure at a young age that when they see it in, JavaScript syntax later, they're not afraid of it. They know the basics. What sorts of recommendations do you make to teachers who don't have that computer science background? What kind of resources would you recommend for them, or what would you say?
So I think, one of the things we talk about a lot as facilitators in code is just teaching that it's okay to be learning along with students. I actually think that that's such an amazing thing in any subject. No matter what subject you're in, no matter what you're teaching, no matter what you do in education, I think that when you build a community in your classroom, a foundation where they know it's safe, they know we're all learning together. I think that if you're going to do computer science and you don't have a computer science degree, you just need to let go and enjoy it and have fun learning it along with them, because it is an incredible thing to learn, and it is really good for many different things, like I said, including perseverance, which is one of my favorite things that students need to learn before they get out, because we can Google everything. You can persevere in anything if you have perseverance. And you have the ability to have all these resources in front of you like students do nowadays. So I think from a teacher standpoint, it's just a mindset. It's a mindset of saying, we're in this together. I'm here to coach you. It's okay if you found or discovered something that I haven't yet discovered. I'm not here to make you think that I'm some authority on everything. It's impossible to be an authority on everything in technology, no matter who you are or what you're teaching or where you are. That's an impossible feat. So I think as a technology teacher who's been teaching technology for a while, I know there was a point in my teaching career where I had to say, you know what, we are all in this together. I'm not telling you, we're all discovering together. And any teacher with that mindset could be teaching really any level of code. could be in the elementary, it could be in the middle school, it could be in the high school, it could be at the college level, as long as you're in it in that method that, hey, we're all discovering this together and we're all going to succeed together. So I'd say that's my number one thing, is just that attitude that teachers need to have.
Yeah, no, that's so important, because I also feel like if you're a new teacher and you're teaching coding, which you don't know anything about, maybe you're afraid just to admit that you don't have the answer. But like you said, building that class community where it's okay to take a risk, and if you're wrong, then you're learning alongside your students, which is great. Can you think of a time when you got stumped in class as a teacher, or like when you didn't know the answer?
Well, I think from a computer science standpoint in the high school, especially, anytime students are debugging a program, and again, this goes back to teaching technology for a long time. If you've been teaching computer science, computer programming at all, coding at all for a long time, you know that there's times that students will have a bug in their program that you can't just walk up and look at it and instantly say, oh, this is what's wrong. So I think from like a debugging standpoint, it happens all the time to computer science teachers. You know, you have to walk in there and go, I can't pretend like I'm going to know your answer immediately. I mean, obviously you've been working on this program for a long time. There's all these lines of code, you know, there's a lot of things to do. So I think that happens all the time with debugging. I think that I'm very open to when a student is excited about something they've discovered, even if it's something I do already know, making it seem like they've discovered something maybe that we haven't had before. Because that's really rewarding to them. You know, for them to go out and go, did you see that? Mrs. Leiker was excited because I just found this, or I just learned this, or I taught her something. And actually Kodable, because it's constantly changing. Kodable does such an amazing job of keeping their curriculum up to date and keeping the kids on their toes and introducing new things to them. A lot of times students will find something in Kodable that we've not yet discovered as a class. And especially the students who run with it, and they'll come up and they'll go, hey, Mrs. Leiker, did you see this yet? Or, you know, look what I did, and look what level I'm at in Kodable, and I love it. And I'll say, no, I didn't see that yet, and that's really amazing that you can do that. Or there's always in computer science, you know, 5 different ways to do the same thing. Or they'll come up and say, you know, I did it this way. It's different than what everybody else did. And you're just like, that blows me away. And that's awesome. And I'm super excited. And once you have that, established that in your classroom, I think it's good for students, but it's also good for you. It takes off this, you know, pressure that you have to feel like you're, you know, some sort of authority that has to have the answer to everything. And that's impossible. And it's not good for the students either. I mean, it's good for them to see you as a human being who's learning with them. So.
Yeah, it's too exhausting to have all the answers all the time. That would not be very fun. So speaking to like that level of excitement that you're talking about in your classroom, I always equate that a lot with motivation, and like when the students are excited to learn more, they're super motivated to keep going. What have you done in your own classroom with Kodable to try to like spark that motivation and excitement? Or maybe it's a lesson that you built about coding to get kids motivated, but how do you foster motivation?
Well, one thing about coding in general is that I do promote coding in every level of our building in every way I can. You might even notice actually behind me the coding posters I have everywhere. And I don't just put them in my classroom. I put them out in the hallways. And, you know, I do try to talk to students one-to-one and groups. If I'm with a group of students, I'll try to talk to them about why coding is such a great thing right now and why it would be a great thing for them to take interest in it. In the elementary school, honestly, I don't feel like I've had to do a ton of motivation. They are motivated. And if I feel like if I weren't introducing these things to them, they would be finding them anyway. I mean, I think they go out and they find them and they get excited. And then just being excited about what coding is about excites them too. But, you know, we start in the beginning of the year. Well, we start with a couple things. We start with a video on growth mindset, because I feel like, and, you know, going back to the teacher too, who thinks they can't teach computer science. If you learn or study or even just Google anything about growth mindset and just start believing in growth mindset, or following it on Twitter where there's so many people who believe in growth mindset, I think that establishing that is great because students get excited that they can try something that they know that if they don't get it right the first time, it's not a wrong answer. They're not going to fail. Or we say, you know, like we watched this Khan Academy video the first day that You can learn anything. Failure is just another word for growing. Teaching that mentality gets them excited already.
Yeah.
And then when they think, when they go into Kodable and they think they're playing a game, they are just instantly like, this is so much fun. I get to do this. And then the fun part about it, and this is what I really love, is I think that when they start and thinking it's a game, most kids will get bored with a game, I think, over time, because there isn't much depth to the game, or they'll master it or whatever. I think that when students actually discover that they're doing the coding part, when they start to think like, oh my God, I really have to think in this game. Like, I'm really thinking through this. It actually gets them more excited, because they're so excited for those challenges, to beat those challenges, to get somewhere, to accomplish something. And then when they equate it to school and they're like, this is like school, like this is how it should feel, it becomes very motivating on their own. And, I'm very into intrinsic motivation. I think even in the high school, too often students, especially for some reason, students who come from middle school always believe for some reason along the way that they're doing things in school for their teachers, and teaching them that it's not for their teachers, it's for them. You're doing this for your life to be better. That intrinsic motivation, all the way down to the elementary, Kodable does such a great job of giving them that, because they get through those challenges, and it isn't just a game anymore. And that they get it. And then I think they come out and they really want more coding. They want more technology too, but they start to understand the difference between coding and technology, which a lot of people in our country probably don't even understand the difference. And they understand it, and they want more of it. They're like, I want more of this,
I love
not just technology. I don't just want to play it on the iPad. I really want to understand this coding piece inside of the technology.
And just like you were saying, just to feel successful at school. And we've talked a little bit about this, and I'm sure I'd love for you to share it with the viewers, but like having some students that maybe aren't succeeding in other parts of school recognize that they are coding, they are doing computer science, and they are successful. Can you talk a little bit about that, like what you've noticed the impact of coding on and Kodable on some of your students?
Yes, we talked about this once before, because I said sometimes when I come into an elementary classroom, especially, there's a student that obviously either isn't that interested in his classroom work, or, whatever's happening in the classroom, for some reason, he's sitting right by the teacher's desk, or she's sitting right by the teacher's desk, or they're off to the side because they are, maybe trouble focusing or whatever. And a lot of times when they see they have control over something like that, and they're able to, succeed, and like you said, feel that success, that intrinsic motivation, and they realize I'm excited when they get through a level, oftentimes those students really do better in coding than they maybe traditionally are doing in some of the other subjects, because they know they have control over it. They know they have that ability to do what they want to do and move on and move forward. Especially in, like, Kodable is a good example of a program where, if they're into it and they start moving, they can move at their own rate, and they can see, hey, I'm getting through this quickly, and I love it. And I had one student in the EK this year who literally, when I would walk in the door, he would be waiting for me to open another level. Please tell me you've opened more levels. I need more levels. Like, that's how some students get. And it's really rewarding and exciting, because, sometimes students who struggle with attention or who struggle in other subjects then sometimes also have behavior issues. And I know I tend to be very optimistic in this way, but I feel like when they have something that they're passionate about, and when they have something that they know that they're good at, it's going to carry over into everything. It's going to carry over into those other subjects, and it's going to carry over into the classroom, and they're going to be like, I have a purpose now. When you give them that purpose and that passion, I feel like it can really help them in all of their aspects of life.
I love that. And when we had first talked about this, I was pretty blown away, because I had almost the exact same experience when I used to teach middle school computer science, where I had one student who I would talk to his other teachers, and I could not believe that he was acting the way he was acting in these other classes, because he would get to coding and just be so focused, be working so hard, and then wanting me to share with his parents every day, like, Miss Boston, can you text them what I worked on today? Like, I want you to share my progress with them. So I mean, I completely agree. The power of coding and having something where students can really feel successful doing this really tricky discipline at a young age. Like, that's awesome. And the behavioral transformation is really powerful. I mean, from my
isn't that amazing to be a part of that? Like, as a teacher,
Yeah.
like, aren't you just excited that you get to be a part of that?
Yeah.
Because middle school is a great example of that too. I've had the same thing. Middle school students who, just traditionally aren't doing very well in other subjects, and it's just an amazing power they have. And then if you can get them to see how high demand that job is, if they want to, follow that and pursue that degree, I mean, then you can really get them fired up. So
yeah, I agree. So thinking about these students that maybe are struggling in other classes, what sort of things might you do to try to help them like bring that growth coding mindset from the computer science classroom into their other classes? Like, do you talk to other teachers or talk to the student? What might you do?
Yeah, well, the students themselves, I feel like a lot of times, and we said this before too, because computer science can be so rewarding on an intrinsic level, a lot of times they pick it up on their own. Like, I feel like it isn't really something that I particularly try to find a student and say, you should, I think when I approach it, I try to think of every single student in the classroom as being able to be successful. And so maybe from that perspective, I wouldn't say that I intentionally go to a student, but I definitely talk to the entire class and say, I don't know what your past or what you guys are like in school, but this is different. This is not like anything else. And you can be successful at this if you want to be. And this is an excellent career to get into. And if you do any kind of research or Googling on what we need for computer science people in this country right now, you'll see very quickly that it's an amazing field to get into. So I think I promote it a lot, like I said before, with the posters, with the students. I do try to get as many students as excited about it as I can. In this district, we all do the hour of code every year. On that coding week every year, I try to make it a really big deal. I order the stickers, I order the posters, I try to promote it any way I can. Because we're a one-to-one iPad district, my tech director can send the desktop just that goes right to the hour of code. And sometimes even just sticking a shortcut on an iPad desktop in our district, students will look at it and go, oh, what is this? And they'll click it, and then they'll go right into it. And I think once they've done the hour of code, they kind of start to get that feel like, I get what this is. I know what this is about, and I love it. Most students really love it, even without you pushing too hard.
Yeah.
That's why, going back to the thing with the teachers again, I really think the teachers themselves should not be afraid of it. I mean, go out and try the hour of code.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's exciting. It's hard to believe that something like that is what makes computers run, but it is. And it's so neat and interesting to see how a computer runs versus just using them.
Yeah.
So.
Totally. Yeah. Right now at Kodable, we're planning for the hour of code and getting ready for it already. It's not for a couple months, but you can never start planning too early, because I agree. It's such a great time. And I've had some questions from teachers who have asked, like, is it too much for the first time we use Kodable to be for the hour of code? Is that going to be too overwhelming? And I'm like, oh no. You just jump in there. And we've talked a little bit about this too, that feeling of when you're trying to build your community of growth mindset in your classroom, sometimes just jumping in and trying it is the best way to start. So
I totally agree, for both the teacher and the student, really. And that teacher having that attitude where they're showing the student that it's okay to jump in and start is a great lesson in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, all of that. I think that everything that surrounds coding that way, the ability to be able to persevere, try again. Failure is not really failing, because you try again until you get it right. And that jumping into the unknown, because it is all unknown. It's unknown for everyone, really. I mean, computer science is going to constantly be changing and evolving. And like I said, there is no one person who can be an expert in all of it.
Yeah, I agree. And you had mentioned that you guys, the district is really interested in coding education, and you guys have one-to-one iPads. Can you tell us a little bit more about the district that you are teaching in, and maybe people who are watching, and if they're in a similar situation, they'll learn a little bit more about
Sure,
it?
yeah. So this district decided to go one-to-one before I taught here, actually. I was at a district that was a little bit further away from where I live, and it was a much larger district, and they had not gone one-to-one yet. And then when this district went one-to-one, their computer technology business teacher left. and my children go here as students. So I was super excited to consider this option, and I really wanted to be in a one-to-one district. So we're super excited about making sure that we got into technology as being a tool to improve what we can do in our district. Like I said, we're almost 50% free and reduced lunch. So students don't necessarily have technology in their hands everywhere they go at home. We also don't necessarily we're very rural geographically. If you're familiar with the state of Michigan, the UP is very distant. Like, we are in Michigan, but we're very far from Detroit. And so it's difficult to get internet around here and Wi-Fi and things like that. So taking a very proactive approach is what they did to get technology into the hands of every student, which is what I wanted to be a part of. And I'm super, super excited that we do that. We do a lot of adaptive learning here, which I feel also is an amazing place going in education. Like, in education, I don't know how we could survive without adaptive learning, really. I mean, the fact that we can use technology to adapt to where a student needs to be so they can feel that success. That goes back again to that, feeling of not being a failure. It shouldn't feel like failure. If you need to try something multiple times until you get it, that should not be a negative thing. That should be, I'm going to be a person who perseveres until I get it, which is a stronger lesson anyway. And so they're very pro technology, very pro adaptive learning. We don't block social media here. You might notice, and we've said before, and since you said you're sharing my contact information, that my Twitter handle is Teach Not Block, because I'm a very big promoter of social media. I think anybody who is anti-social media has not seen it used in the more powerful way it can be used, or hasn't been taught to use it correctly. So we teach social media instead of blocking it, in the hopes that we will create a generation of students who can really harness the power of social media, because there's a lot of amazing things that can be done with social media when it's used correctly. So they're very supportive of that too. I feel very fortunate to be here, where I get a lot of support in technology. The administration is very supportive, and the teachers are very supportive. So
that's awesome. What might you say to a teacher who is working at a school that wants to try Kodable but maybe doesn't have that type of support? Like, potentially it's not one-to-one, maybe students would have to be in pairs or threes. What would you recommend for them?
Yeah, I think pairs and threes would still be exciting. Like, I really feel like students just get excited from, all computer science, but Kodable especially. Younger students just love everything about it. And the students that I have, even though they're one-to-one, they still want to be next to each other, sharing what's happening with each other, showing each other what they did, helping each other solve. I think it's great no matter what kind of technology you have to be able to introduce it. Also, a lot of people have technology at home too. Like, even if a parent had an iPhone or any kind of phone that could put Kodable as an app on it, students can still use it. And I've mentioned this before. I've actually had students whose parents texted me at home because they wanted to get into their Kodable at home, because they were either home on Christmas break or we had a snow day. One time I got a text on a snow day. Or it's just students who just can't get enough of it during the day, and their parents are texting me and saying, my student is driving me crazy. They want to be in their Kodable account. What do I need to do? And so it's amazing. And no matter what way you could use it, I think it's going to make students excited. And that's computer science in general. I think that, the way we teach it now, and the opportunities and the resources we have out there, and almost all of it is free. There's a lot of really good resources out there that people can start with and try it and get exposed to it. And it doesn't matter if you're one-to-one or not. You can still do that.
Yeah. I just have a couple more questions as we're wrapping up. If your students take away one thing from their experience with Kodable, what would you hope that would be?
Perseverance. I know I say it over and over again.
No, it's important.
Yeah, it is. I think when a student understands that the control is in their hands, it goes back to the intrinsic thing again. that they're not doing school for someone else, and that they're not powerless in school. Like there isn't someone telling you, well, you're good at this, or you're not good at this, or this is where you belong, or this is where you fit in. I think that lesson, no matter how you get that through to students, no matter what subject it's through, or whether it's through coaching or sports, that you have the control of being able to, it's this power over your own life and your own self to say, I can do this. I can get angry and quit and say I hate it, or I can persevere and say, so what if I didn't get it right the first time? I'm going to try again until I get it right. I think that's probably the most important, but also just the excitement of coding and knowing how a computer works from the inside, I think too is great. And I think students, when they start doing coding, whether it's through Kodable or any source of computer science, they very quickly understand that they're learning not just to use a computer, but actually how the computer works. Yeah. And I think a lot of them realize very quickly too that their parents don't really know much about how the computer works. So they can come home and say, did you know that, this is how it works? Like I'm actually controlling, like I'm not just playing a game right now. I'm controlling this character. I'm deciding where this character is going. And when you play the game, I can write code where I get to control what happens according to what you do. I think when students get that, that's a really exciting thing too that I hope they get out of any computer science course that they take.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that speaks a lot to like the teacher communicating when the students are using Kodable, communicating what is happening. Because like you said, if they're playing it, they're going to be engaged, they're going to be motivated, but they might not truly understand that they are coding this fuzz to move through this maze. So the role of the teacher to really help them realize that they are coding, they are not just moving a fuzz around.
Right, and I think Kodable does a really good job of that, because when they get to the fuzz maker, you almost can't not understand that you're coding then. That's what I mean. Kodable has some really amazing creators there. I don't know who's creating your content, but I love how in my mind, like I said, as a computer science person, I can see that they've really found ways to get the kids to get coding in just a different way. But things like that, I think they start to get the concept of, oh, wait, I'm controlling this according to what I do over here. Yeah. And that is such an incredibly powerful thing to understand. It really is. And it's so great for them to see that.
I'll pass that along. They'll love it.
Thank you.
And then what's your one final recommendation if you were to try to boil it down to one recommendation for a new teacher interested in trying Kodable? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say just jump in. Like we said, dive in. There's really nothing stopping you from diving in and trying it. I mean, even like we said, even if you're pairing up, like we love pair programming in code.org too. We talk about pair programming all the time. It's a great thing for students to work together. It's a great thing for students to solve problems together. I really can't think of a reason that you couldn't jump in and try and, at least discover what's happening in it. And if you're afraid of computer science, or if you're afraid of coding, or if you're afraid that you don't know what's happening when they're going to jump in, that's just an attitude in your mind where if you're promoting growth mindset, you're promoting it, but you're not thinking it.
Yeah, you got to live it.
Yeah. If you have growth mindset, that as long as you're willing to try and as long as you're willing to persevere, you can't really get it wrong. You can't do it wrong. There is no wrong way to teach a student how to get interested in any subject, let alone coding. And like I said, there's so many resources out there right now because we have such a ginormous shortage of coders coming out that we have a lot of resources that are out there available for us to use. So.
Yeah. Jacqueline, thank you so much for joining me. It's always lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
I want to say to everybody else watching, if you're interested in learning more about what we've talked about in this video or have any questions, you can reach out to me. My email is hannah@kodable.com, and I will include Jacqueline's contact information, Twitter, and email as well. And then don't forget to like and subscribe to our Kodable channel. Jacqueline, thank you so much for joining me. It was so nice to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I love it. I love Kodable. I'm super excited. And yeah, if anybody needs to contact me, I would be excited to help.
That's so great. Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.